This is part 4 of the Pied Piper of Peoria, how American culture can lure you from God and weaken your faith. I'm Mike Zigarelli. Parts 1, 2, and 3 of this broadcast showed how a secular culture can transform the way we think and the way we live. Here in part 4, we'll look at how we might break free from the influence of secularism to live a more faithful, more God-honoring life. In one sense, forewarned is forearmed. Just knowing the piper is there and being able to recognize what he looks like is an enormous step toward breaking the spell. That's in fact the primary role of this broadcast, to help us see more clearly this dangerous, invisible phenomenon, this hijacking of our minds and our lives, this brainwashing of believers and non-believers alike. When we see what's going on, we naturally resist the seduction. But for many of us, awareness won't be enough. It's a necessary but not sufficient condition of freedom. In the busyness of everyday life, we tend to forget about the piper, leaving us vulnerable once again. So, in addition to vigilance, we also have to be intentional and proactive about resisting the pervasive pull of secularism. One way to do this is by leveraging this same cause and effect process to our advantage. What I mean is this. If our environment can powerfully pull our thinking and behavior in a secular direction, our environment can also pull them in a sacred direction. What's needed is an adjustment to our lifestyle so that we take in more of the right messages and fewer of the wrong ones. Influencers like TV shows, music, movies, magazines, friends, and so on can be positive as well as negative. Though it's the negative elements we've emphasized up to this point, consider how such influencers can shape our thinking toward godly ends. If we, for example, get in the habit of surrounding ourselves with Christian music throughout the day, that'll make a difference. If we watch fewer toxic TV shows and movies, and more of the stuff that encourages God-centered thought and action, that too will make a difference. A show that highlights the plight of impoverished kids in Appalachia is better for us than yet another insipid sitcom that normalizes lasciviousness and profanity. Multiply that by 100, and you'll be in the habit of drowning out the piper's music with God's music. Similarly, we might make a practice of downloading Christian-oriented podcasts and books and listening to those during our commute. More broadly, we can make wiser choices about everything we access on the internet, as well as about what we read, about the conversations we have, and about the company we keep. If possible, we might choose Christian education for ourselves and our kids, rather than secular education. We can go to Christian conferences and retreats. And most importantly, we can spend lots of time at a solid Bible-believing church and with the God whom they serve. Lastly, we can also reverse the secular brainwashing by making learning a habit. In particular, learning more about what it means to live a godly life, about a faithful approach to marriage, parenting, work, education, money, possessions, success, leadership, sexuality, conflict resolution, and so on. There's a Christian perspective for each of these dimensions of life that stands in sharp contrast to the secular perspective. But it's not always taught well in our churches. So we have to become intentional about self-teaching, about the spiritual discipline of study, about developing a Christian worldview of everyday life. Be advised, though, that this learning process will entail a lot of unlearning of secular ideas that have embedded themselves in your thinking over the years, and that may entail fighting some challenging battles within yourself. As we see more clearly that our life and our body is not our own, that our happiness is not the priority, that the good life is not about comfort or convenience or security or freedom to do whatever we want with our time and money and minds, we may be tempted to abandon the whole effort. We may find that we prefer to follow the piper than to follow God. It seems a whole lot easier, and besides that, everyone else seems to be. That may in fact be true. It's easier to simply drift with the cultural current than to swim against it. But you're stronger than that, and wiser than that. This is your one and only life. It's too valuable to spend slavishly following a crowd that's following a thief. Break free, starting today, and head back toward your home. There's someone there who misses you and who loves you very much. Thanks for listening.